Good morning, Facebook, and welcome to episode 12 of the Joslyn Variety Show. My name is Rebecca. I'm the program director, and we are going to do our workout this morning. So grab your chair, and then after Veronica's workout, I am going to teach y'all a little bit of photography basics. So let's get started with Veronica, and then I will see you guys in a few minutes.
Hi everyone. Pardon me a moment. Okay. Welcome back again. Can you hear that music? Okay. Okay. We are marching. Breathe. Now focus. We're right here. Don't think about anything else. We have a few minutes exercise, so let's just enjoy it. Gentle marching. I've got my chair right here. So remember, keep breathing in and out. You are squeezing your abdominals because that's your core stability, right? Okay, next to your chair, you're going to tap forward, heel taps. Ready? Now you can keep the rhythm of the music, or you can go a little bit slower too. Just move at your own pace. Now we're going to tap the toes back. Ready? Back and back. And if you don't need to have your hand on your chair, maybe you could use your arms here. What is it? Cross-country skiing. Okay, just a couple more. Good. Okay, now we're going to tap side to side. Ready? Be careful in the chair. Side and side. So try to keep from your waist up. Don't let that move. Squeeze your abdominals. Just move your legs. Breathe. Okay, that's good. All right. Now, get your strong stance. That means your legs are not pushed back too straight. Have a little bend. And we're going to do our wave from calisthenics. And reach and really listen to your body. Listen to your body if you need to modify or just slow down a little bit. You do that, okay? And now we're going to do the breaststroke. Reach out and around feels really good. And make sure your shoulders are not up. You want to keep them down. Swimming. And it's swimming. Okay. Arms are out straight. I'm going to turn to the side and we're just going to point our elbows back and point. So you're opening the chest. Just let it stretch, don't force it. Is it raining? It's starting to rain finally here in Palm Desert. Okay, good. Now again, knees are slightly bent and we're going to just reach up, stretching our sides. And feel that stretch all the way down. Okay, other side. And remember, your stretch starts from down here, okay? So really feel that stretch. Okay, good. Now, with your chair, I'm going to turn mine sideways. We're going to do a nice stretch all the way down the back of the legs, okay? In chair yoga, this would be a modified downward facing dog. Now, straight back. Squeeze your abdominals. Straight legs. Squeeze your abdominals to protect your back. And your head is between your arms. Just in the line with your arms here. So don't drop your head. Just like that. Breathe in and out and relax into the stretch. abdominals, use your leg muscles, and go ahead and stand up. All right. Okay, so now let's stretch the front of our legs, one leg at a time. You're going to lift the leg up, hold it like that. You've got a pant leg, you can hold your pant leg. You can put your toe on the floor and just sweep your leg forward until you feel that stretch from your hip to your knee. Okay, other leg, other side. I have to straighten my leg because I felt like I was getting a little cramp in the back of my leg. I'm listening to my body. Always listen to your body, it's in charge. Okay, good. Let's have a seat. Let's stretch our triceps. We haven't done that yet. So one arm comes up, the other arm reaches over to the elbow, and it's going to pull it back. Other side. Push it back. And now let's stretch the shoulders. So we're going to bring one arm across the body and grab it with the other arm and give it a gentle pull. You'll feel the stretch all the way down here. Okay, other arm. Just take your time. All right, now let's do some shoulder rotations. Really shrug the shoulders up high and then all the way back. Any tension you may or may not have been aware of is leaving your body right now. Okay, that's good. Okay, we're all warmed up for some photography. Enjoy.
Whee. Thank you so much, Veronica. We are so lucky to have you here to help us out, because I know that you used to teach some of our classes before you took on a role as our Wellness Center receptionist. So she's got all that great experience and talent to bring to us, so we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Likewise. Goodness.
So let's come over and talk a little bit about photography. So y'all might not know this, but before the Joslyn and before my career before the Joslyn, I was a Air Force photographer. So I enlisted in the Air Force after high school, and my job was to be a photojournalist. So that job was threefold. The main portion of it was to cover newsworthy events in order to provide content for the website and for the Facebook. So taking a lot of pictures of deployments, dignitaries visiting, festivals, anything that happened on base. The second portion was to do official portraits. So any of those military portraits that you see where they're standing in front of the flag and they're looking very dignified, we took those portraits as well as passport photos. And then the final portion of my job was to provide photo documentation for the security forces. So anytime there was an incident on base that required documentation, it might have been an aircraft incident or a fire or domestic violence, unfortunately, anything that the police wanted there to be photo documentation of, they would call us to take pictures. So obviously that was not my favorite part because it could get a little bit sad and a little stressful. But my favorite part was taking pictures of base events for the website and for the newspaper. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit of composition basics. So I have a Nikon that I shoot with now because I shot with one in the military, so it's what I know. Actually, my sister-in-law made this strap. Isn't it lovely? You don't have to have a Nikon or a fancy camera to take really good pictures. In fact, most of us have smartphones now, and a smartphone camera is really excellent and can, unless you're trying to print out really enlarged images, usually your smartphone camera is good enough. So we're going to talk about some photography basics for composition that you can use with your smartphone or with your camera, whatever you happen to be working with. We were going to go outside and do some pictures out there, but it looks like the rain has started. So we are going to do it inside instead. So bear with me for just a second. I'm going to flip you guys around and get you set up so that you can see what I have printed out to work with. I'm going to try not to drop you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about basics of photography composition. So there are several rules that you can go by when creating a really nice image. The first of them is called the rule of thirds. So what you want to do is imagine that you have lines on your image that make kind of a tic-tac board that divides your image into 9 squares. And when you're doing that, the best thing to do is find 2 intersections and put the subject of your photo in the intersection. So see how this honeybee is at this intersection and this intersection? And this girl over here is at this intersection and this intersection. So you want to offset your image just a little bit because splitting an image up into 3 portions like that is visually pleasing. And it makes for a really lovely picture. It adds a little bit of balance, it adds a little interest. Instead of having something just smack dab in the middle all the time, if you offset it a little, it gives it more value. The second really great tool that's very, very simple is leading lines. So leading lines are great because our eyes are naturally drawn towards things that take you with it. So this pier right here, you're looking towards the horizon because these lines are telling you to. And in this image of a bridge, these lines are pulling you straight towards the figure, which is on a motorcycle there. So out in nature, there are lines everywhere. They're usually very easy to find. You see them in the road with the dashes. You can see them with fences, anything that can bring your eyes towards something. Oh, goodness. Anything that brings your eyes towards something like this, you can use as a photography tool. So now let's look at filling the frame. So this one is super important because you can have an image, the subject of your image, but if you're too far away and you get too much visual noise in the background, then you're going to lose the picture. So like the sunflower is all you see in this picture. There's a little bit of background, but they've really done a good job filling the frame with that sunflower. And the same with this lady down here, this portrait. It's also using rule of thirds, you might notice, but her face is the frame. They didn't back out to include the rest of her body, so they're really doing a good job of conveying what they want to show, which is her specifically. So if you cut out all the noise surrounding what you're trying to get the message across about, then it'll help you keep the viewer's attention because that is all that they see, so you're in control of what they're viewing. So another great one is balance. And balance is something you can find in nature often as well. But it's basically setting up your image so that there's 2 different factors that even it out. So sometimes that means having something in the center, sometimes not. But for instance, in this image, the photographer has placed themselves right in the center so that you can get the really pretty symmetry of both of these buildings, both of these cliffs. Sometimes you'll see anything like 2 birds or 2 trees, anything that can balance your image and make it look very pleasing to the eye, keep it from seeming too empty or too scattered. Balance really helps the viewer connect with the image. Another one that is one of my very, very favorites is framing. So if you're out, obviously we like to frame images in our home because it gives a really pleasing effect to it, but when you're out in nature, you can find ways to frame images as well. So this is a natural archway that's been built into a building, and you'll see that the subject is under the arch, so it makes it kind of look like there's a natural frame there. And the same with this cow. These are fence posts right here, and the cow is peeking right through the fence posts. And that's one way to keep the viewer's attention on the cow as well, because your eye is drawn towards whatever's inside of that frame. So when you're out and about taking pictures, look for ways that you can naturally frame a subject. It might be with tree branches, it might be with a building or an arch or a hole. I took a really cute picture of a kid through a hole in playground equipment once. So just look for opportunities where you can frame something. Next, we will talk about viewpoint. So viewpoint is really, really fun because you have the opportunity to decide what you want your viewer to see and how you want them to see it. So for instance, this image right here is taken from down below looking up, as this image is as well. So instead of maybe being eye level with the sled dogs or eye level with a human and sled dogs, they've gotten down on the ground, they're shooting up. So you see the sun, you see them silhouetted. It gives a different effect, so it makes it a little more visually interesting. It gives you a chance to show a point of view that people don't normally see, which makes a picture more dynamic. So let's talk about a couple different viewpoints. Front view means head on. So that would be me taking a picture of you at eye level. Bird's eye view is from up above looking down at something. You've got a rear view where you're behind something shooting at it. And then a worm's eye view where you're down underneath something and taking a picture up, just like you would be a worm. These are all really great ways to add visual interest to an image and to spice it up a little bit. So now we are going to look at some photos I took in the military, and we're going to talk about which of these techniques I used when I took them. So this one right here, actually let me lift this up so you guys can see just a little bit better. This one right here, you'll see this officer is giving a briefing to a group of airmen. This is leading line. I used the chairs to give 2 lines, drawing the eye right to the officer, as well as a little bit of a worm's eye view, because you'll notice that I was crouched down a little bit so that I wasn't eye level with the officer, but I was closer to the ground, which gave me the opportunity to get a really good flag shot behind him. This officer right here was also a creative angle. He was a pilot, and I got right in front of the nose of his aircraft, filled the frame with his whole aircraft, and got a shot of him getting into his aircraft that you wouldn't usually see. Usually you'd see it if the photographer was sitting over here, or maybe the photographer was over here, but doing it from the front is a whole different image. This one, I was also using a high viewpoint. This is a airman throwing his gear into a truck for deployment. I think I was standing on the truck, actually. I was up here somewhere. And it's always a good idea to try and get an action shot if you can. So if somebody is moving or doing something or throwing something, use that dynamic moment, that visually interesting moment, and get that shot, because it would be more interesting than him standing there holding his duffel, is him throwing his duffel into the truck. So these ones, this was another high viewpoint. These were some airmen loading an aircraft. I think this was for Haiti relief when the Haiti earthquake happened. So I stood up on another one of these pallets to get the shot. I think it was on top of these tires you can see right there, and shot downwards at them as they were loading the aircraft from the ramp. So it kind of is an off-center image, so you're looking at a little bit rule of thirds, but mostly that high viewpoint to see something different there. This one is another creative angle. It was at an air show, so these are all spectators down here, and they were all pointing at the aircraft that were flying over. So just something different. Usually you get pictures of spectators in the stands, which are great, and they can convey a lot of good facial expressions and things like this. But this one's a little bit different, which is fun. This is an example of framing. You'll notice that the whole image isn't framed. It's just this bottom and left-hand portion, and not as much of a frame here, but it still serves the same effect. It draws your image up to the captain, and this was a reporter who was doing a report on our aircraft, but you can also see the visual details in the cockpit, which is kind of interesting. So not only is the frame helping to show you who's in the image, but it gives a little added detail. And then this one up here was rule of thirds. These were some airmen that were clearing the flight line before the beginning of the day. So you've got the sunrise in the background. And then this airman was leaning down to pick up some litter. He is in the rule of thirds. So if you draw those lines on this image, he would be off to the side there with the rest of his fellow airmen up in front. And then we'll do a couple more. So some things that we didn't talk about, but I might in a later video if we decide to, are some other photo techniques. For instance, a portrait. If you're taking a portrait, you want to use a nice depth of field, and we'll talk more about that later, but if you're getting a portrait, try to fill the frame with as much as the individual as you can. Depth of field is also really valuable. We haven't talked about that, but it shows, see how this airman in front is blurry and then the aircraft in the back is blurry, but the two people that I was focusing on are clear. So it kind of, you're telling your viewer what you want them to see, what you want them to look at. Silhouette is another great technique. This is a dark image, so it's a little tricky to see. I'll bring it up for you, but it's some airmen down here carrying a flag. There's a band in the background and an aircraft in the background. Silhouette is a really great tool if you've got lighting behind somebody. Then it gives you a good opportunity to show it off in a different kind of way, just like this aircraft right here. It was being lit by some fireworks. This one, rule of thirds. This one's a really easy one because if you've got your lines all your action is over here in this third of the image. The trails going out behind them still fill the rest of the void, so it's not a blank photo in the rest of it, but the real action is there on the side. And then here is another selective focus. You'll notice this, or he's actually navy. He's blurry, the Marine in the back is blurry, but the airman in the middle is selectively clear. You can focus in on her and see her well. So those are just a couple of techniques. I'm going to turn you guys around so that I can talk to you a little bit more, so bear with me for a second. Okay, so those are a couple easy techniques if you're looking for a way to enhance your images. And now that you have some time at home, you can practice at home, practice in your backyard, get used to figuring out how to frame something so that you're using that third of it, and figure out how to find frames in nature. So look for maybe some branches that are creating a nice little triangle or a hole, and you can shoot at a bird through the, don't shoot the birds, but take a photo of the birds through the branches. Look for ways that you can use a different viewpoint. So maybe instead of taking a picture of a flower where the flower is right here in front, get on top of the flower and shoot it downwards, or get below it and shoot it so you can see the sky. So take the time while you're home to practice a little bit and figure out what kind of techniques you really like and you find appealing. And then when you are out and about after this is all over and taking pictures, you'll feel more confident in your photography skills. And I'm sorry that we can't go outside, but it's still a little drippy. Otherwise, we would do some practicing in the yard, but that's okay. Maybe another time we'll do a photography part 2. So if you guys enjoyed the photography class and you want to know more, some tricks and tips, comment and let me know, so that way I will know to do another video on it later. But thank you for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If anybody has any questions about photography or about smartphone photography, let me know. Just put a comment down below, and I'll try and reach out to you guys and give you a hand, because it's something that I love and I have missed since I've been gone from the military. So thank you so much, and you guys enjoy your day. We will be back tomorrow with something really special for you, and stay safe out there. Thank you.